Good afternoon, good morning to some of you. I guess we have some customers from a lot of different places. So thank you for taking the time to meet up with us. Again, I'm Keith Justice, in case you don't know who I am, if I haven't met you in the past. I have Matthew Tillinghast from my customer success team. He'll be monitoring the chat as well. So if you have any questions, again, feel free. So what we want to discuss today, obviously, is the Quickbase JavaScript changes. And I guess you're probably all familiar with the screenshot here that shows this message that's been popping up, kind of scaring some people about what's going to happen with our add-ons if Quickbase removes JavaScript or the ability to use JavaScript throughout their platform. So it's not as bad as everybody thinks. So it's something that we've been planning for a little bit of time, and we thought now is a good time to reach out and kind of explain some of the things that we need to take care of for you or with you. So we're going to talk today about the impact to our add-ons and which add-ons in particular have the impact. And we're going to explain some options that we have. We've come up with our own code page because that's actually what Quickbase now sanctions as the approved method for using JavaScript. So we've designed our own custom code page that we're going to share with everyone. And I'm going to go through that a little bit more in detail later. And the other option, Quickbase came out with their own pop-up property now, so for formula URL fields. And that was one of the delay in us getting our message out to the community here, is because we wanted to see what that was. They hadn't given us a preview of that. So we weren't really sure what their pop-up property option was going to be like. So we wanted to, and they just released it last week. So we wanted to take a look at it so that we can compare it to our solution and then talk about that in a meeting like this, so we can explain the good and the bad between the two. So we're going to talk about.
I hate to interrupt. You might want to check and see if there's participants waiting in the queue, because I feel like there might be some others waiting there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matt.
Nice. Okay. That's better.
No, thanks, Matt. Jump in whenever you feel you need to jump in.
Hi, everyone. Again, the ones who are just joining us now. I'm Matt Tillinghast, and that's Keith Justice. We're just going through the JavaScript changes. You didn't miss anything. This is only the second slide. And thanks again for joining us. Yeah,
where we're at now is just talking about the different options we have to take care of the issue that I see now. Whenever you're opening up one of our fields in Quickbase, you see this unsupported message come up. So we do have some options, and our option is a custom code page that we designed, and another option is the Quickbase pop-up property. And I'm going to explain what we have to do change-wise to use either one. We recommend using our custom code page, but you don't have to if you don't want to. But I think you'll realize that that's probably the better solution. Questions and comments, certainly feel free to send them in the chat. You can send them out afterwards if you like. We have some resources. So our help site has a very detailed description of exactly what I'm going to go over today. So you can use it as a reference. So when you're back into your application trying to make some of these changes, you can use this. We're going to record this, obviously, and share it, but you can also use our help site as a resource for you to walk through the process step by step. You can also, if you're not part of the Juiced Cloud, you should contact us and we can get you on the Juiced Cloud. But you can open up support tickets to the Juiced Cloud if you're running into some issues, if you made some changes and you're having some experiences that you didn't recognize were valid from this meeting that we have here. So here's the add-ons that are impacted by the JavaScript changes that Quickbase is coming out with. It's mainly the add-ons that present a pop-up screen in order to execute. Now, we were never big on JavaScript. The only reason why we used JavaScript was to open up a window. And there's a lot of other JavaScript, let's say, implementations out there that do a lot more heavy lifting with JavaScript. If you browse the community, you'll see that there's a lot of a gentleman named Dan Diebold had put out some image onload technique, and there's a lot of other JavaScript injection techniques that are not valid any longer, or won't be valid any longer. But we never really bought into that. So all of our technology is server-based technology. It's running on all .NET backend, AWS servers, .NET technology, and we don't really use JavaScript except to pop open windows. So we're going to talk about how we can alleviate that so we'll be free from JavaScript when it comes to JavaScript on a form. But again, here's the add-ons that are impacted. So more about our custom code page. It's a generic code page that can be used by all of our add-ons. So even though we have impact on all of these add-ons, if you have a few of these installed in some of your applications, you won't have to install a new code page for each one. Okay, the one generic code page can be used by all. And if you're in multiple applications, you're going to have to put this code page in each application. So it's not something that you can put in one app and you can reference it throughout apps. We think the better implementation is to install it in each application. Two things we want to highlight here is this is a set it and forget it type page. We're going to install it, or you're going to install it. You're going to name it a certain way, and we're going to show you how it should be named. And you're not going to touch it again. And the only time you'll ever touch it is if some reason we think that there needs to be a modification made to it. But for the most part, it's going to be set it in the background, and you really won't even know it's there. Some of the main features of our code page, it's going to pop up a window and display our add-on interface, just like the JavaScript window does today. We'll give you the ability to control the size of that pop-up window, just like we do today. When you close that window, when the execution of the add-on is done, we'll redirect and once the form is closed, and we'll refresh the form so you can see any changes that were made by our add-on. And we also allow you the ability to use a formula-rich text field. So this is a little bit more advanced, but I'm going to show you that as well, because some people like to use the rich text fields so that they can control the styling and kind of conform a little bit more to Quickbase styling. So now the other option is the Quickbase pop-up window property. Now this was just released again this past weekend, and it's another solution. You can certainly use it if you don't want to use our code page. One thing I want to point out, there is JavaScript in our code page, but again, that is sanctioned by Quickbase to be used. And again, it's just JavaScript that will open up a window. That's it. Doesn't do anything more than that. So one of the things I wanted to point out with the Quickbase pop-up option is it'll pop up and display our add-on, so just like it does today, but you won't be able to control the size of that pop-up. And when it closes, you won't be able to redirect or refresh the form. And another point is you won't be able to use a formula-rich text field, because this window I'm showing you here, this display, you'll notice that if you open up a formula-rich text field, the open target is not an option. It's only an option in a formula URL field. So that's some of the differences between the two options. Okay, so what do we need to do to get rid of this? So obviously no one wants to see this anymore. So let's figure out and show you guys how we can get rid of this. So I created this demo application that we're going to give you all access to as well. And basically what you're going to do is I'm going to show you here, I'm going to delete, I have a code page behind the scenes in this one already. I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm going to create a new one because I forgot to do that before. So I want to show you how you're going to create your code page. And I want to show you our help site as well. The help site. All right, so here's our help site, and it's going to give you step by step. It kind of goes through why this is happening. It gives you steps for creating a code page, modifying each formula field, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that for you. So on this app that you'll have access to, you can basically download a text. Open it up in Notepad. It's just a text file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select it all and just copy it to the clipboard. And then I'm going to come to my home page, which I'm already there, and I'm going to create a new code page. So you just basically hit your settings, you go to new pages. You're going to create a code page and click create. And then you're just going to paste that information. Well, this is really just the code. It's very simple. It's not thousands of lines of code. It's a very simple page. And the other important thing is you're going to name it Juiced add-on popup.html, just like that.
And Keith, I really think we need to highlight the page name is really critical in this whole process. So you guys have to make sure that it is exactly as seen on the screen right now.
And don't forget the HTML. And don't put any spaces or any special characters in here. And don't come in here and change any of this code, because this code is actually, it's designed to work so that it'll work with every one of our add-ons that needs it to work with. So once you do that, you can just click save. So now there's that new page, and it's kind of behind the scenes now. So I'm going to exit out. And I'm actually going into this application. I'm going to change a couple of buttons so that to actually use that page now. So if I go to my project, this is just a simple project application. I have a project and task table. So each one of our add-ons that are impacted, I have a little a tab here to show you the different fields that you're going to need to modify in order to support these changes. So right now, this is Exact Forms Plus is installed in this application, and it's using the old look and feel, meaning if I click on this button, it's executing Exact Forms Plus the way it always did. It opens up this is using JavaScript. So that's what that looks like. So that's a simple click a button, open up a form. And again, I'm going to go into the code of this just so you see, we're going to get that warning message. Okay, because I'm still using that JavaScript. But we don't want that to happen anymore. But one thing I wanted to point out is there's another button here. That's the stream to browser button. A lot of people don't use the progress bar button, and the progress bar button is the only one that uses JavaScript. So this one here, if you click the button and it opens up the document automatically for you, there's no impact there. You don't have to change this button because it's not using JavaScript. And the way to see that if it is or not is if, oops, I just closed my browser. That's not good. Sorry about that. Back here. So if I go back into that button, I want to see, is this a button that has impact? If I open up that button, that message doesn't pop up because there's no JavaScript in this one. So again, our progress bar option is not used by a lot of people. So, but we still want to show you that some people might use it. So if you do like the progress bar button, then you're going to have to make some changes. And I'm going to show you exactly what you need to change there. So you're going to basically right click and you're going to edit the field properties. And we need to get rid of the JavaScript line. And I'm just going to open this up a little bit more. What I'm doing now is going to be the same for basically every button. So I want to get rid of the JavaScript code. And really the JavaScript code is this line and this line. This
not the second line.
This line actually opens the window. This one sizes it and positions it. So, and this is what Quickbase doesn't like. See this word here, JavaScript? Even if you were to come in here and comment this out, you will still get the message, the warning message, because it says the word JavaScript. So don't do that. What we really want to do is we want to get rid of this. So in our help site, we have what I have is on my home page, I have this app opened on another tab on another screen. And I put specifically the field, the data that we need to change, or the code we need to change. These are the two pieces of code that we're going to replace in that button. And I'm just going to keep that over there so I can copy and paste. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first line of code. Move some of these windows out of the way. My first line of code is just going to basically call out to reach out to that new DB page we put in. This is how I like to change these fields. First thing I do is I find the HTTP, which is calling out to our server. I hit on a new line and I put an open double quote. Then I get rid of the JavaScript. And now I put the reference to our DB page in there. Again, I copied and pasted from the homepage of our demo app. It's also accessible in our help site. So I'm halfway done now. So all I did was I referenced I pointed to the Juiced Add-on popup.html page, but there's still JavaScript code down here. I need to get rid of this. And then I need to put the last 4 lines that I'm going to copy and paste. And basically what this is saying, control the size. And again, you can size this however you like. Pass in the width and the height. And you know what? The old width and height were 320 and 500. So the width was 500 and 350. And this is a redirect. So all this is doing is it's pointing to our JavaScript, to our code page. It's still passing in the same parameters that it always did. You don't want to touch any of this because this is just still the core parameters that are passed into Exact Forms Plus. And then you're going to add these last three lines here that size the window and redirect back after the window is closed. So now once that's done, and another thing is you don't want to choose there in pop-up button. So don't choose that. Just leave it the same way it was. So the only changes you made were line 1 and the bottom lines. So now when I save this, and now I'm going to click on that same button. So it doesn't look much different than it did when I clicked it with the JavaScript in it. So it's really very, very similar. The only difference is it opens up a new tab. And when I close that window, it's going to refresh and bring me back. So you can see that it just refreshed the screen. So I know I completed that at 317. It updates the file attachment field, so on. So again, the old look to the new look, you really don't notice much of a difference at all. And that's by design. That's why we took a little time to make sure we did this code paste the right way. Now, here's the Quickbase version. So I already created a button to show you the Quickbase option. So in this case, what I did was I did the same steps, meaning I deleted the JavaScript first line and I deleted the last lines of JavaScript code. And all I did was check the box. So again, I got rid of JavaScript. I didn't touch any of this. And I checked that box right there. So let's see what that looks like. So now when I click on their version, you're going to see I don't have control of the size. It still will function, and it still will work, but the close button doesn't work either. You have to close here, and it's not going to refresh the screen. So we know that we didn't create that document at 317. We actually have a refresh button that you can see. We have code for this that we're sharing on our last tab here that basically just does a refresh of the screen. It really just redisplays the record. So, and that's something that we use for some of our other add-ons. So that's why we're including that here. You can steal this code, just copy and paste it into a formula text button, and you'll be good. And you can use the styling as well. But again, our version controls the window a little bit better. The close button does work, and the screen gets refreshed. Quickbase's solution can't control the window size. And when you close, you have to manually refresh. Okay. So for Exact Forms Plus, if you're using the progress bar, you have to make a change. If you're not using the progress bar, you don't. There's a couple other things you got to worry about with Exact Forms Plus, and that's the document templates table. So I have a link here that's going to take me to that table. So we have 1, 2, 3 more buttons that we have to worry about. Okay, so this is our EFP configurator button. So it opens up the utility to help you select the fields that need to be used within the document. And we have our subtable buttons. Same exact thing here. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to get rid of my JavaScript just like I did before. Got it on my clipboard. That. Insert. I'm going to put my double quotes. I'm going to remove my last JavaScript lines. And as you do a couple of these, they get a little quicker. So again, I didn't touch any of the core code. I just basically got rid of the top, bottom, and pasted some new ones. I didn't record the width and the height. I should have, but for now, I'm just gonna. So now when I click this button, Obviously, I'm going to make them a little bit bigger, but again, this is a similar look and feel that you get to our JavaScript button. And again, when you close, it refreshes. So then you're going to do the same thing with our other buttons. So the add subtable button, again, I'm going to remember the height and width this time. Paste that. Come down here. Actually, it was, and by the way, if you don't pass in the height and the width, we default the value. So I'm going to not pass it in. So we just default a standard size. So if you forget to put those out, but again, if you're familiar with these utilities and some of the button experiences, which if you're Exact Fonts Plus user you are, you'll see that not a lot has changed. So I'm just going through this just to say this is the complete modifications you need to make for Exact Fonts Plus so that it will conform to Quickbase JavaScript standards. Save. And now when I edit the subtable configuration, it works. So that's a typical Exact Fonts Plus setup where you have two buttons installed on your master table to run Exact Fonts Plus, and you have a bunch of fields on your document templates table. You have three of them to help you configure the subtables as well as the master data. Now, there's one more advanced option, and a gentleman called Mike Tamush had asked me about this because he doesn't like to use the formula URL fields. He wants to use a formula rich text field. And he wanted to know, is our solution going to work for that as well? So this one is a little bit more complicated because we got some styling going on here as well. But again, it's still, you're going to remove the JavaScript just the same way we did in the past. And you're going to put your redirect code right in here. So when I click on this one, again, it's not using JavaScript, but it's opening up our progress bar, same way it did when we used the formula, the URL field. But again, you'll notice, since it's a formula-rich text field, you don't have those extra options here for controlling to open it in a new target or open it in the same page, etc. So this is just another advanced option. And we can share, we'll share some of this code with you if you want to take advantage of it, because if you want to style the buttons a little differently than the standard style of a formula URL button, you can take advantage of that as well. If you also use Exact Fonts Plus batch processor, there's no changes that need to be made except for the refresh button. So if you're using our batch processor, you might see a batch processing table or a batch generation table. You'll see some type of table. So hey, Matthew, I'm just looking at your screen. Just wanted to see what all right. I just wanted to make sure everybody was seeing what I'm seeing. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just pulling up the help site for someone.
Okay. So this is a batch processing table. The only thing that when you execute the batch, if you look at this code, there's no JavaScript in here. It's just doing an API edit record. So this is still all valid code. The only thing you would need to do is change this refresh button, because that was using JavaScript code, and you just want to use our refresh button code. So that's Exact Fonts Plus. So let me stop there and just, anybody want to share anything? Anybody have any questions about? Because this is obviously the add-on that's most prevalent, most used throughout our community of customers. So I want to make sure everybody's clear on how that works. Again, here's the code page. Everything that I did is explained right in here. As well as, so this is telling you how to create the code page itself, step by step. You can actually even use this as your notepad. You can copy and paste the code right out of here. That's for the code page. We give you a little demo that shows you exactly what the code page should look like when you're done. And then you can click on the next steps and it'll take you through, okay, now you need to modify buttons. So exactly what I went through in this presentation ahead of time, you have access to that here on the help site. Here's the code that you would copy and paste for the first line where you remove the JavaScript line. And here's another piece of code at the end. That's the beginning, here's the end. So that's the setting the size. Okay. So Excel Docs, everything is going to be very, very similar. Excel Docs is just like Exact Forms Plus. Stream back to the browser, you don't have to worry about. This one, where it's loading a loading panel, this is using JavaScript. So this is the before. So this is using JavaScript to generate the document. So if I come back in here and I want to fix that up, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Get rid of my JavaScript line of code. Place it with our DB page code. Scroll down a bit. 20 and 500. That's it. So now this button is fixed. I should have made it a little bit wider. But again, that's the beauty of this is you can control the size. We really thought Quickbase was going to add that as, here's their button. We were hoping that they were going to add a way to do that yourself, like in a pop-up and maybe next to it say width and height. But and we recommended that they do that, but they didn't listen to us on that one. But so when I'm on Excel Docs, I'm going to look at the Quickbase option. And I know you might be wondering, why am I showing the Quickbase option? I'm showing it only to let you know that there is another option if you don't want a code page. If the code page scares you for some reason, which it shouldn't, you can still use our add-ons without using a code page. It's just the experience is not going to be as rich as it is when you do use the code page. So again, if you're using their option, we're giving you this code for the refresh so that you can still take advantage of refreshing the screen instead of having to click up here or refreshing off the URL line. One of the other add-ons, Docusign. Now this one, there's a lot of buttons going on with Docusign. But again, it's all the same. And that's what it's very repetitive here, but we wanted to show you that the same page, the same URL page can be used, the same code page can be used throughout every one of our add-ons. So again, and this one, sometimes the code gets a little bit more crazy inside the code. So you just got to be careful what you're doing. You identify that JavaScript line that you want to get rid of. In this case, it already had my HTTP on another line, so I'm good there. But I'm just going to insert my access to my page, and then I'm going to grab my sizing parameters. Open this up a little bit. Get rid of that last line. Put in my size. Hit save. And see, I'm glad this happened. So this, if this does happen, the reason why it happened was I have an if statement in here and I forgot to close it. So I'm saying if there's a document, then I want to do this, otherwise I don't. But when I deleted that last line, I also deleted that extra parentheses. But that's just a Quickbase syntax issue and me going too fast. But now when I click that button, again, we're using our DB page instead of the JavaScript page. You get the same experience that you did as if you were using the JavaScript page.
It's good to show what errors could happen, Keith.
Yeah. Even when it's not on purpose. So with Docusign, you got a couple other buttons you have to worry about. So you have the one button that's typically on your main page that actually creates the envelope or sends it to Docusign. And then we obviously created this envelope ahead of time so we can show you the recipient information as well as the envelope information. So if you did want to add a recipient, or if you wanted to avoid an envelope or get a status, they're all the same thing. They're all using JavaScript. So we got to do the same thing again. So it's basically just a repetitive motion here where you're just copying and strategically, carefully placing the code. And again, this one also has an if statement. So I'm going to save that guy. I'm not going to delete him. So now I don't get an error there. Same thing for the other buttons, the void, the get envelope status, the change recipient. It's the same repetitive change, but again, it's the same change, which is good. So you're not having to create new DB pages and so on. Anything on Docusign? I see Donna just put Donna 14. You just posted that installed, tested on one app, and everything works great. Good, Donna. Thanks. So we get signatures, same thing. Again, we have our sign off button. I'm going to show you one additional thing on that one I want to show, because we also have another option for signatures. So yeah, I'm going to replace that. This one doesn't have an if statement, so it doesn't end in a parenthesis, so I'm good. Save. So now my sign off is using our DB page. Close. Again, automatic refresh. Signatures, see that crazy signature. One thing that we, and actually, you know what I'm going to show you before I go into that field. This is the Quickbase solution. So I did, for the signatures, put Quickbase's solution in there. This one, it's not as bad because the window is sized somewhat okay. It's still too big for me. But again, when you hit the save here, the close doesn't work and there's no refresh. So I got to refresh. But again, it will work, extra steps. Now, this button code here is we introduced something relatively, I would say within the last couple of months, that allowed you to, let's say, encode the parameters that are passed into our add-on through base 64 encoding. So if some of you guys do have that installed in your app, I just wanted to show again, it's still the same, even though you have that option in there. We're still going to do the getting rid of the JavaScript line and not any more than that. And getting rid of the sizing and adding the redirect. And that's it. And that one. Still works well. Okay, so that's our signature add-on. Now, multi-file, this is our multi-file file attachment. Again, it's going to be the same coding changes. And after you do this enough, it's a very simple process and it's pretty clean. If you mess up in here, you can always cancel, come back in. Cancel, leave, come back in. If you're not sure, if you think that you're a little heavy on your fingers when you were pasting or deleting anything out, just cancel it and redo it. Cool. Again, our upload multi-file using our non-JavaScript page now, or non-JavaScript formula URL field. There's no view buttons on our file attachment multi-file. Again, here's the Quickbase option. Window's a little bit bigger. Doesn't give you that reset, refresh. Amazon S3 is going to be very similar, but there's with our Amazon S3 add-ons, we have 3 different add-ons. Well, 3 add-ons, one has 2 options. You're going to change these buttons the same way I just did with the other one. So this is obviously, this is the JavaScript, the old JavaScript. I'm going to change that one, but what I wanted to point out here is, and thanks for Laura Thacker had asked a question about, she also likes to use these rich text fields instead of the formula URL fields here. And the reason why she did it this way too is instead of viewing the file this way, so if I click download, it downloads it to the browser. And Laura didn't like that. She wanted to be able to control it better. So she came up with an option to download it in a page instead. So you see it right there. So she was like, oh, is this new change going to break that? So I told her, no, we'll actually test it. So that was the old way with using JavaScript. Again, if I come in here, we're going to get our warning. But I actually took that field and changed it so that it will work. Again, using our DB page option, being able to style it the way she wants. And when I click this now, using our DB page, same experience. So thanks for sending that to me ahead of time, Laura. I'm glad we were able to get that one to work. Dropbox, again, the only difference with Dropbox is it has a view file button too, just like our S3. You can do the same thing. Wherever you see, well, actually, this one we don't have to worry about because we're not opening this one up in the view button. We're not opening up using JavaScript. We're only opening up the open button using JavaScript. So if we went into the code here, we'll see JavaScript is in there. We'll see the warning message, and we fix that one the same way. I'm going to do this one last time. Oops. View Dropbox. Okay, no longer using JavaScript inside the formula URL field. Image resize or rotated. That's a mouthful. Same thing. There's a bunch of buttons on that one. If you're using that one, there's a couple of different buttons you're going to have to take care of. And again, our batch processing, there's nothing really to do for Exact Plus batch processor, but hit the refresh. So I think I hammered home over and over again the simple changes we need to make to our formula URL fields. I'd certainly like to take this as an opportunity to answer any questions, field any comments. Is this something that you guys think you can do? We tried to make it as easy as possible. Again, we're going to make this app open to everyone so that you can get the download code page a little differently, but you always have access to our help site where you can get everything you need to implement this solution for yourself. And again, we want you guys to do this as well, not only because you'd have to wait for a backlog of us to reach out to all you guys and do it for you, but the whole mantra of Quickbase is low code, no code, do it yourself. We provide you with the code page, you implement it, and you just change some of these buttons and you can do it on your own. It shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, Keith, thanks for making it holistic between all of the add-ons. It's kind of a one size fits all, which is really important.
Anybody want to jump on? I can show anything again if anybody wants. I can dig a little deeper into something. All right. I'm just quickly going through some of the comments here myself. If anybody has any concerns, again, reach out to us, support@juicedtech.com. Open up a support case in our Juiced Cloud. Real quick. Our Juiced Cloud is accessible from our website. If you don't have a login, it's a great opportunity for you to reach out to us and we'll get you a login and we'll get you on the cloud. You just can enter your password like I can. Again, you're just going to enter a support case right here, enter your support case. We'll get back to you. You won't have to download the app. Paula asked a question. Will be getting access to this app? Yes. I didn't want to give it access while I'm doing it because I didn't want people clicking on the buttons while I was going through the demo. So I already have it set up. I have users, everyone on the internet invited in. I just didn't assign it to the role. I can't allow you to modify the code of the buttons, but you will have, you can obviously, you'll see this, you can download this. You can click on some of the buttons yourself to see how they work and the differences between the Quickbase option and our option. What I will do is, and I'm going to make some changes to the app so that I can maybe show the code next to some of the buttons, kind of like what I did with the refresh. I showed the code here. I don't mind showing it so that you can copy and pasting it, but I just don't want anybody to edit the structure of the app. Otherwise, it's going to break it for everybody else. A link to that app will be right in our help site. On the main JavaScript pages, we're going to put a link to the webinar recording once we finish this, and a link to the Quickbase application. So you'll click on this link, it'll take you right to our code page app, and you can get the DB code page this way. You can get another link back to the help site. You can use this as your scratch pad if you want. Courier does not use, good question, Margaret. Courier does not use JavaScript. Courier is one of our batch add-ons. So it's really not fired through a button opening up a window. It's fired by you using an API edit record call, or maybe scheduling a configuration to run, or clicking a button on demand from within our cloud. So, our main application, if you're using our Courier main application, that's just using an edit record as well. So there's no issue with Courier. Yeah, I don't think there's any other questions unless, let's see here, more. Hope if there's nothing else, we brought you back another 15 minutes of time. We appreciate you spending some time with us to understand some of the implications of this JavaScript changes. It's not as big from our standpoint. There are a lot of other JavaScript implications that I'm sure some of you guys have to worry about, but this is not one of them. And we're happy to provide this solution for you. Far less scary. That's good, Amanda. Thanks. All right. So again, I'll make this recording available, provide a link to the app, and you guys have a great day and thanks for joining us.